We're now seeing Audemars Piguet release the Remaster 02 after the B1, and everyone's like, copycat. The tail is wagging the dog. Now, with microbrands leading the big box brands, it feels like a very different era. Is the tail wagging the dog?
I think so, and I think this is a good thing. These are the brands that are keeping the industry as a whole on its toes.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have Blake Buettner here from the Deep Track, formerly other household names. Deep Track's probably not quite a household name yet. How long do you give us, Blake? 6
Definitely
months?
not yet. Maybe give me a year, and we'll get there.
Quickly fill the people in. Where did we know your name from before Deep Track?
I was an editor with Hodinkee for about 6 years. I was the director of watches at StockX, and I was the managing editor of Worn and Wound for about 3.5 years as well.
That's nearly a decade in the game, my man.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's a problem, but I keep hanging around. I love this stuff, and I love the people that are in that are in and around the industry. As you know, it's a great space to be in.
Blake, let me ask you a hard-hitting question, just straight off the bat. Is all of this experimentation around shape and brutalism and how we've suddenly just gone hard to the creative and hard to the avant-garde, is this a blip? Is it a little flash in the pan, or do you see this as a bigger trend that we need to take notice of? I
think it marks a transition into a new era. Maybe era is a strong word, but I see that the last maybe 10 to 15 years has kind of been defined by the more referential designs. You know, we've had the rise of these kind of throwback watches, and there's some really cool ones in there. You know, I don't want to dunk on those or anything, but I think that we've hit a point of where people want to see something new and original. So, I think when brands bring back old designs exactly as they were, they kind of paint themselves into a corner a little bit. And it's like, well, where do you take it from there? How do you build on that? So I think brands run a real risk when they do that. So I see some of these brands, like the B1, as you referenced from Toledano Chan, like that's kind of like a push back against that. And I think it will open the doors and mark a transition, this and watches like it, into a more like original time. Like, hey, maybe not all of them will hit or work, but somebody needs to be pushing ahead.
And of those models, I'll give you some to choose from. Tell me which one you're taking off the table and why. We've got the Toledano Chan, we've got the Anoma, and we've got the SpaceOne. Which one are you taking and why? Quick, no time to think about it. Just go, take it, grab it. Which one?
The B1. It's got to be the B1. To me, it's the most distinctive thing. It is well articulated in its design, and I like the guys behind it. Phil Toledano has gotten me this close to buying a jumpsuit on more than one occasion. So, yeah.
Viva Bastardo. He's a clever chap, isn't he? And a sexual
really
athlete, he tells me. I mean, I have no proof of the fact that he's a sexual athlete, but
I wouldn't doubt it for a moment.
Yeah, he's. I don't know. I still want to see it, Phil. I don't know how, and I'm worried about the gauntlet I'm throwing down. Have you experienced that watch in person? And if so, tell me about it in the hand, because I tell you what, this thing's hard to understand in the pictures. What is that bracelet like? Is it stretchy? What is it?
Yeah, it's brutal. It is literally, right? It's not like silky or anything, but somehow like how they've shaped all the pieces work really well. I went hands-on with a prototype maybe a year ago, something like that.
Wow.
So it's something that I know he's been thinking about for that long, and it all comes together way better than it has any business doing. You look at it and you think, oh, this is going to be horrible on the wrist or something like that, but it's really not. It's quite pleasant on the wrist. They did a great job with it. And I'm here for it. And stone dials, weird materials, I love it all.
And yet, for most of our careers, we would never have talked about these watches. I don't think it was ever the remit of Worn and Wound, and Hodinkee would do the odd vintage piece here and there, but now it's a tidal wave of all of these new themes in watchmaking.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's everyone is looking for that bit of like individual, unique ground that will set them apart. I don't think that brands can get away with, well, here's my like diver that looks a bit like a Submariner anymore and like just get into the game. There has to be something else, and it has to be driven by something else. Otherwise, it's like, why even be here at all? And again,
Yeah.
none of us need these things. So it has to be something that is going to elicit some kind of an emotional response from you. And like the safer you play it, the more boring it's going to be at the end of the day.
Here's another question for you that spins off our podcast, which you should listen to, the Deep Track, Andrew McCutcheon versus Blake Buettner, round one. I'm not sure if we can call the winner on it was a split decision. But one of my crazy propositions to you is that the tail is wagging the dog now with micro brands leading the big box brands that have all the money, all the resources, all the watchmakers and designers. Do you agree that this is the case, that we're now seeing Audemars Piguet release the Remaster 02 after the B1, and everyone's like, copycat. So do you agree with the proposition that micro brands are now not just giving us, in the first wave of micro brands, you had brands like Monta and Christopher Ward giving people Rolexes they couldn't buy. But now it feels like a very different era. Is the tail wagging the dog?
I think so. And I think this is a good thing. These are the brands that are keeping the industry as a whole on its toes. So I think this is a very healthy relationship that's starting to develop now as we are seeing some incredibly impressive things. It's not just I can get my kind of like sub or GMT lookalike from one of these brands. I'm getting something wholly original and unique that I can only get from these brands. And I think that's a problem for some of the big industry brands that they need to think about. Like they need to bring it, if they want to go toe to toe with these guys. And the quality is getting to the level of, it doesn't feel like you're making a compromise, and that's an important part. You have to feel like you're getting something unique and original, but it's lower cost. So it doesn't this or that. No. It's the real deal. These things are really tip top where they need to be.
I got to pull you up, man. I cannot swallow from you this notion that this is a healthy relationship. The big box brands would be hating this. Come on, man. Be real with me.
It's true. Look, it's true, but I'm saying, like, it should be good for them. Like this, it's good for the consumer, I should say. Right? This is the relationship that we want.
No question. It's good for us. We get something to talk about. We got people that are actually, we've got a readership now that are seeking new things. So I think it's all good on our side. But I got to question you, man. If I'm sitting in a big box brand right now, I'm not loving this. My ivory tower is getting overrun.
But they need this. Think of it like, if I spend a weekend lounging on the couch and playing video games, my wife is going to be like, what are you doing with yourself? Like you get, or I come home from whatever and drink 10 beers, she'd be like, you're better than this. And you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. That's the analogy, right?
Your wife has a higher view of you than mine does me. She'd be like, again, dude, again.
Yeah, exactly. But we need that kick in the butt every now and then, right? Like it's like, hey, we're capable of more. We're better than that, and I think that's what they're in the process of.
Well, let me put you in a position then, Mr. Optimism, because I feel like there's suddenly there's someone who's entered the chat that's more optimistic than me. I don't know what to do with myself right now. But like, say you're at a big box brand and you see the B1, you see the Anoma, you know that you've got watches like that in your archive and you're sleeping on them. What do you do, Mr. Buettner, new CEO of Hamilton or Audemars Piguet? What do you do with all these sleepers that could blow all these micro brands out of the water? What do you do?
Honestly, a part of me would say, stop looking at what's back there. And we need to redefine like what's in front of us. If you want to take something, this is what I think like Zenith does really well. They balance this out really well. They bring their historic watches back and they do a really good job there. But they also take the premise of the collection. Well, the DeFi was always meant to be kind of pushing ahead and innovative. So they have this other side of the line that is only kind of pushing it ahead and doing weird, crazy stuff with it. It doesn't always work, but that is its raison d'etre. Like that is what it's meant to be. And those are the things that I think the brands need to find. Why did they make this collection like that in the 70s? Why was it so weird? Okay, well, let's take that idea and apply it in a modern way instead of just bringing it back in a lazy manner.
Let me test you one bit further then. Like, you've just got a letter in the mail. Congratulations. Your wife's come over and said, thank God you've stopped playing Call of Duty. Here's a letter for you to have with your 11th beer. What a brand has invited you to be their CEO. Who do you want it to be?
It would be Zenith for that reason that I just said, because they have an awesome history. But even if you go back to the 60s and 70s, their reasoning for making these watches was kind of bonkers at the time, right? And that's what like I want to preserve today. So like that would be the challenge, and I love that. So, and I like what they do. Yeah, I'm a Zenith. I like Zenith.
And it is. I'm starting to piece together that I think the only CEO you've had on the Deep Track has been the CEO of Zenith. So I don't know what's happening here. Are you like? Did you like, like rice and beans in his water in the chat, or like what are you doing?
Well, look. To be fair, I had
close and your enemy's closer.
I had Guido Tarani on just 2 weeks ago, and Parmigiani is another brand that I also find like exceptionally interesting, and I think that they are doing the same thing. Like they're not an old brand, so they can't bring back some old design. So they're kind of like redefining their path right now, which I think is a really good thing.
Well, I mean, we did an incredibly silly thing on About Effing Time and challenged ourselves to take over a brand that we didn't think was performing, as opposed to one that we felt we could do even better things for. And I chose Breguet, and that I stand by that offer. I would second myself to Breguet for 1 year. If the brand's interested. But who would you love? What brand do you see underperforming or not at its potential, and just think, give me 1 year? What brand could you turn around in 1 year, and what would you do?
So I don't want to say this in a way that I don't think that this brand is underperforming. I think they're doing just fine. But there's a lot of other things that I would be doing, and that's Tag Heuer. And I think they have obviously a healthy foundation, and they've got great collections, and they make nice looking watches. But they've made some incredible watches. They have such a great history that I don't see them kind of like drawing from enough to build kind of a new modern complexion of the brand. So bringing back some of the like what Heuer had done. Some of their like military-esque references and dive watches.
Oh my God! Like those aviation pieces with the matte bezels, like the Sin Dark Star that Revolution did. That brings to mind some amazing. I think they actually were. What are they called again? The contraction of the two words. The Ortavia. The Heuer models. Yeah, they would be amazing. But how do you solve the branding issue? Because I had a long chat with Jean-Claude Biver about this, and he felt that maintaining the Heuer name was confusing the market. And yet I feel that putting a new logo on revival pieces or historically inspired pieces is also vexed. What's your solution there? Choose one or the other.
I would simplify it, and I would remain consistent across the board. I think it's easy to we need somebody for everybody, so we have to have a watch or a product that goes into all of these holes, and then it kind of like it dilutes everything that you're doing. People talk about everything that Rolex does right, but there's only a handful of product lines that they have, and almost everyone could name all of them. And I think there's something to that. So I would simplify it, and I would keep it consistent. Keep it Tag Heuer.
So you'd only have one logo. You wouldn't bring back the Heuer logo on the historical pieces.
One logo.
One logo, one life. I like it. Blake, it's been a rapid fire chat. I appreciate the honesty. We should do this again. I like putting the heat up on you, man. There's zero latency in your responses. You're just ready to party.
I love it, dude. This is a blast.
All right, man. We're going to do this again. But if you want more of Blake, which I often find myself wanting, it's convenient because we've got a whole Blake channel now, the Deep Track. It's relatively new. I remember the day you told me it was coming, and I thought, I've heard this from many people, and not always does something materialize. It has fully materialized. There's 20-something episodes of the podcast. There's a great website channel as well. So congratulations, Blake. Check out the Deep Track.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Anytime, buddy.